Hello, and welcome again to yet another daily live stream. Wow, so much has happened in the last 24 hours. So thank you so much for joining us. Well, first things first, the longest US government shutdown in history has ended. All right, you've got President Trump who just signed a piece of legislation, and perhaps as we speak right now, you've got US federal government workers making their way back to the offices after a 43-day shutdown, the longest in history. All right. So, we have to cover how markets are reacting. Of course, we're going to talk about Bitcoin, we're going to talk about gold, and we'll look at some other assets that we had highlighted right here on this daily live stream by Bybit Learn, and we'll see whether they have panned out or not. And just a pro tip, I'm really starting to perhaps like or not like so much the number 0.3%, and I'll tell you why in a bit. Okay. All right. So let me just do a quick check to make sure that we are online on YouTube Live and also on X. So again, we are broadcasting on the official social media channels for Bybit Learn. Okay, so this is Bybit Learn, and that is Bybit Learn official, and you can find that right now on YouTube and X as well. We are live on YouTube, very good. It looks like we are live on X as well. Now, keep in mind, folks, if you've got something that you'd like to check out, is there an asset that you'd like to see how they're performing right now in the lead up to the US market open? And it can be Bitcoin, altcoins, or even stocks, indices. Here at Bybit, we actually launched in the middle of this year TradFi, or traditional finance products. So you can talk about the S&P 500, you can talk about the NASDAQ 100, all these stock indices that you love. The world's most popular FX pair, euro dollar, we have it as well under the TradFi banner, and of course, a whole lot more, right? Commodities, metals, the like. Okay, so feel free to drop me a a chat on YouTube or X or wherever you may be watching from. I'm still waiting for confirmation that we are getting live on X, so just bear with me 1 second here, folks, before we just dive right into it and look at some charts. Okay, give me about 10 seconds here, and yes, we are live on X as well. Well done. All right, so let's get right to it. So let's look at cryptos first and foremost, because I know you guys love this stuff. All right, so here's something you may not know. So here's something you may not know if you're perhaps new to the Bybit universe. You can, of course, check out the Bybit app, or just head on down to bybit.com. I'll type it up for you guys here. Head on down to bybit.com, right? And then once you get there, you will actually see this markets tab. So make sure you click on that. And then you can get a good overview of how markets are performing overall. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to look at spot for spot Bitcoin, spot cryptos, and like I mentioned earlier, you've got TradFi as well. You can list them through newly listed or even derivatives, etc. Now, so I'll just go with the trading volume, because that kind of gives you a snapshot of some of the more popularly traded cryptos right now. So you look at Bitcoin right now, still 102, right? Barely really moving, still down about 2.5% over the past 24 hours. Ethereum as well down. Now, of course, if you filter this or rank this by from biggest to lowest, you do have some really outperformers, right? Like TELF, over 70% over the past 20 hours, 24 hours, etc. But I think overall, if you look at the big boys right here, right, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, some of these bigger or longer or more popular cryptos not having the kind of positive reaction that you would perhaps get after such a big news, right? The official end of the longest government shutdown in US history. Now, we'll talk more a bit about how cryptos, or why cryptos are kind of behaving the way they are. And in fact, we've just published an article on Bybit Learn today, along with our good friends at Block Shoals. And so that gives you into a deeper dive into really what's happening behind the scenes in crypto. But we'll get to that in a bit. Now, to be fair, if I pull up this chart on, say, the US 500 or is the S&P 500, right, which is the benchmark stock index. So remember, we've been saying this. An index is just a way to measure things. For stock indices, they just think of like a basket of stocks, and this index then measures how that whole basket or group or different stocks are performing. Okay, so if you look at, say, the US 500, I believe it's I may have mistaken it really somewhere else, but yeah, it's actually falling right now. Okay, tell you what, let me try and pull this up live here. If you go to the Bybit website, you can just hover over this hamburger menu, as they call it, the three lines there, and click on TradFi, right? You can click on indices and then just look for S&P 500. Now, this is the arguably the most popular stock index, okay? Just used to answer the question, well, how are US stock markets performing overall? People often refer to the S&P 500, okay? So look at it. Again, this is the daily chart, yeah? So each of these blocks or candlesticks reflects how the S&P 500 performed in that one day. So you can see right now, all the way to the right, it's actually falling right now. Why? Well, because we spoke about this also for much of this week. Remember, markets are forward-looking in nature. Okay, so markets are forward-looking nature. What does that mean? That today's price actually reflects tomorrow's expectations. So if you recall, if you've been joining these live streams or been following the news, you already had developments from Monday or from earlier this week that, hey, there could be a breakthrough that could bring an imminent end to this US government shutdown. And that's why you saw this, see, I'm hovering over the November 10th daily candlestick. You can see the date right at the bottom there. As it pops out, November 10th. Today is November 13th. So a lot of that good news or that hopes were already, what they say, baked into the prices. That's why there's a big jump up for US stock indices, right? Now what you're seeing is this phenomena that is known as sell the news. So once markets get the confirmation, right, and indeed President Trump has signed that legislation that effectively reopens the government, right? Once you've got that confirmation of the news, markets then book profits, take profits, sell off. Okay, it's called sell the news. Feel free to Google it or ask ChatGPT, and you can read more about this or this phenomenon that happens quite often in the markets. There's this thing called buy the rumor, sell the fact, or sell the news. Okay, so we're seeing some sell the news or take the profits right now. Looking at the Bitcoin chart that we know you all love so dearly, same thing, right? So well, cryptos, I think overall, for Bitcoin in particular, it did spike up to about 104 earlier today, but it was not able to just punch up higher. Okay, now why is that? Well, one big reason is because, and we have published this article here, right? I hope you guys can see the headline here, right? So crypto positioning. So basically what's happening in the derivatives market, right? So market participants are still quite bearish. If you had tuned in yesterday, you would remember this phrase I used that, nerves are still raw. Right? After what happened in October, it was one of the, if not the biggest liquidation event in crypto history. A lot of leverage was wiped out of the system. And then we had another steep sell-off in November. So going back to this chart here, see earlier November, you had two big daily candlesticks to the downside as well. And you saw how earlier this month, there were multiple days where Bitcoin just threatened to break below that psychologically important 100,000 level, right? We have spoken about this a lot. This is an absolutely crucial level to determine whether this multi-year bull run or uptrend that we're seeing in Bitcoin prices, will it stay intact? Okay, if you zoom out, I can try and tell. I'll try and zoom out on this Bloomberg terminal here. I don't want to disturb my beautiful chart that I already have crafted on the Bybit website. But if you zoom out on the Bitcoin chart here, let's take the 5-year time frame here, okay? So you can see from 2023 up until now, is this consistent uptrend, right? Uptrend meaning higher highs, higher low, higher highs, higher low, higher highs, higher low, right? But this $100,000 level for Bitcoin is crucial for many technical reasons. We've gone through them. Feel free to check out the past live streams. I'll just quickly show you one chart. I believe it's this one, right? So yeah, if nothing else, this again is a mathematical calculation of how Bitcoin prices have fared over the past few years. This bottom red line here is basically like the last bastion that holds up this uptrend. If we see a dramatic fall below 100K, then this is where those who have been hoping for further declines in prices, and I know there are some of you who are watching who have been hoping so as well, they could then be emboldened to just really push prices even lower. Okay, so 100,000 absolutely crucial, but for now still holding, but going really nowhere over the past couple of weeks. Given that positioning is still bearish, nerves are still raw in the crypto, broader crypto space. Long story short, even with the supposed good news of the US government reopening, and then money can start flowing, people can go about their lives, and hopefully travel around the Thanksgiving period will not be so disrupted. The activity in the world's biggest economy can hopefully find some semblance of normalcy, or at least try to go back to those normal levels, right? So all those hopes, clearly lost on Bitcoin and the broader crypto space. Okay. Now, that's for Bitcoin. And again, feel free to check out this article that we just published today. How you get to it is, tell you what, I'll just walk you through the journey again. You go back to bybit.com, right? Go to the website and then look for Learn. The Learn icon is also there on the Bybit app. You just got to click on services or tap on services and just look for it. Look for Bybit Learn. It's right here. Just click on this. And then once you get to learn.bybit.com, click on blog. Click on Crypto Insights. This is where we post the non-daily articles. So we've got a derivatives report that's published with our friends from Block Trolls, and the latest one is right here. Okay, feel free to check it out, and hopefully I remember to post this link on X and YouTube after the live stream as well. Okay, all right. So that's crypto right now. Going over to gold, though, is a different story. How about this? Now, again, if you have been watching these, let me make this full screen because I designed this chart to full screen. So here you go. All right, gold prices clearly enjoying this good news, right? Because there's so many, or a big uncertainty is now removed from the markets. If you have been watching our live streams, we had highlighted this 4256 level from, I believe it was, let me just double check the dates here, and you guys can hold me accountable. We had drawn this green line here since November 11th, right? So check out that November 11th from a couple of days ago, our live stream, right? So that was when prices were printing this doji here. Remember, this was a time when there was uncertainty. So a doji is this like cross-like daily candlestick. You can look it up, DOJI. It signals market uncertainty. They don't know whether they should go higher or they should really go lower. So market prices just kind of stay in this flat-ish candlestick, right? But obviously, since then, with news of this the ending of the US government shutdown, prices clearly broke higher. Now, keep in mind that the 4256 level that we had highlighted from a couple of days ago, that was intended for the week. So that range from 4256 to 4040 was meant to last us until next week. But because of this imminent end to the US government shutdown, prices have risen up, and it got to within 0.3% of the target. So close, right? So if you hover over the daily candlestick, you can see in the top left-hand corner, OHLC. O stands for open, H stands for high, L low, C close. Okay, so H is the high for that daily candlestick, 4245.05 on Bybit's platforms. So yeah, again, just like within $11 of that 4256 target. But we still have got a few more days to go before this range perhaps becomes null and void, right? So something to keep an eye on. So close. Will we get there? Let me know in the comments. Just 0.3% away, so close. But if you want the full recap of how we arrived at these numbers, you can check out that November 11th live stream, or I can just tell you what, just do a quick recap here. So I basically headed down to the Bloomberg terminal, and here's a really quick and fun tool that I often use. It's a model that it's a real-time model. Yeah, keep in mind. So when I plug in those numbers, those numbers would obviously have changed a lot since that November 11th live stream when we did this live as well. So from the current prices right now, and between now and November 20th, so the next 1 week, right? So the expected price range is from 4086 to 4359. Okay, so right now we are in the middle of that 4219 right now, but today it got to as close to within 0.3% of that target that we had highlighted from a couple of days ago. Okay, so yeah, those are the arguably the two most popular things that I know you guys love very much. So we will let me just see what else I can pull up here. We've got plenty that we can pull up from. So I've shown you US stock indices, the S&P 500. I've shown you Bitcoin. I've shown you gold. Tell you what, let's refer back to my agenda. What do I have for today? All right. So again, we know US shutdown ends. How are markets reacting? Bitcoin, yeah, muted. Crypto positioning, still bearish. Gold within 0.3% from that price target that we highlighted on November 11th. Okay, we're going to look at oil here in just a bit. Yeah. So again, this was quite exciting because this price target of $58 was mentioned yesterday. Just yesterday. And if you look back at the live stream, prices didn't have that big downward move that we saw after the live stream, right? And so the title of my live stream yesterday was titled, Is Oil Primed for a Breakout? Because of all the events that we had highlighted that happened yesterday, and also another one coming up in about an hour or so from now, right? All these events, would at least dictate that, hey, oil, which has been moving sideways for the past few weeks, is ready to break out. And sure enough, right after the live stream, boom, broke out. Okay, and we look at that chart in just a bit. But before we look at the chart, just a reminder here, folks, that you can make this entire session more rewarding for yourself. Of course, in my personal opinion, learning in and of itself should be reward enough. But hey, we here at Bybit Learn, we want to make it that much sweeter. So what you can do is scan this QR code and it'll land you on a page on the Bybit website. And there you can find many different tasks that you can complete. And by completing those tasks, you could potentially earn more rewards. Okay, so just for these live streams alone, we have set aside a pool of 25,000 USDT, or there's the equivalent of $25,000 in rewards that you can get for signing up, right? And so those of you who are perhaps new to the Bybit universe, you don't have a Bybit account yet, just by doing that act of signing up and then going through the process, or what we call KYC, or know your client, or it's just us getting to know you more. You got to submit some documents, right, to know who we're dealing with. You go through the KYC process as well. All these different steps, from sign up all the way to deposit and beyond, and even trading and learning, can get you more rewards. Okay, but first things first, scan the QR code. We also have the link there in the description on YouTube and X, so please check those out. You can just click it on there, and of course, do give us a like and subscribe, and drop me a comment to let me know where you guys are watching this from. Okay, so let me just also pull up that Bybit page to show you which is the page you'll actually land on. Here we go. All right, so again, 25,000 USDT just for these live streams alone. You either scan the QR code or click on the link, you'll actually land through this page, right? So we've got this events that essentially refreshes every week or so, right? So then you've got more tasks that you can do. You just scroll down, you can see those folks who have already gotten themselves their share of those 5,000 USDT in weekly rewards, I believe, right? So here are all the different tasks. You invite a friend, you deposit over 100 USDT, verify your identity, that's the KYC that we spoke about, or check out some of the really, really cool tools that we have within the Bybit universe, from trading with bots, or placing your own spot trade, etc., or using the earn product. So many ways that you can stand a chance to win your share, potentially win your share of not just this 5,000 in USDT prize pool, but also claim your share of this 25,000 USDT pool that we have just for these live streams. Okay, yeah. So give shout out to these folks here who have got themselves some pretty nice change there. Okay, cool. So that's what's on the website. We're gonna look at oil prices here. So here we go. There we go. All right. So again, we had highlighted the $58 level, right? Let me just draw it up for you so you guys can really see it. Here's a demonstration of all the different charting tools that we have that you can find not just on the Bybit website, but then also on the app as well. Really, really cool stuff. Let me just make it clear for you, right? And I will actually zoom in a little bit. You can just hover your mouse down at the bottom of the screen, click on the plus button, and that'll help you zoom in. But see how close it got, right, to that $58 line. Okay, so again, if you hover over the candlestick, look in the top left-hand corner, we are looking for low, right, L. So it was at $58.17.3, 58.173. So within 17.3 cents to that $58 target that we had highlighted yesterday. Keep me accountable. Watch a live stream yesterday. I did mention $58, right? So got to within it, and then it just kind of bounced right back off. So you let me know if that was a win or not. 17.3 cents away from the target price. Would that have been enough of an opportunity for you, or is that a win for some of these? I wouldn't call them predictions, but some of these outlooks, right? These potential opportunities. To be very, very clear, what we are doing here is not to be misconstrued as financial trading or investment advice. Okay, please, as the sticker says here on my mic, DYOR, do your own research, folks. Okay, so what we are highlighting is potential opportunities that can play out depending on what's happening out in the real world. Again, I'm more of a fundamental kind of guy, right? I like to look and understand why markets are behaving the way they are doing, right? So fundamental is just a fun way of saying, what's happening out there in the real world, in the supply, demand, that stuff, as opposed to technical traders. And perhaps there are some of you watching right now. I mean, well done to you. And feel free to give me a shout if you're more of a fundamental person or a technical kind of trader or investor, right? Technical traders, they just love to look at the charts, and all the information they have is right there, and they react based on what they see on the charts, and that's cool too, right? And you can do that by checking out the indicators, the entire encyclopedia of indicators that we have here on Bybit, right? You just gotta type in what you like. So moving averages is, as you can see from this chart here, is something that I really like to use. I like to keep things simple, right? Big round numbers, psychological levels. You see how markets often react around those big round numbers, like $58, for example, or close enough. Moving averages is another popular one. Relative strength index, that's another one. Right, so many different indicators that you can use, and there are many people who just love to trade based off of what they see on the technical analysis. Okay, in fact, let me well, it was right here actually. Let me just make this. So in terms of technical indicators, right? Sorry, I forgot to mention this earlier. My bad. This is very, very important. Now, we have seen how gold has essentially gone up for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trading days in a row, right? Double check me on this. In fact, I'll just double check myself real quick on the Bloomberg terminal. Is it 7 days in a row? Let me just find these here. Yeah, there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, in Bloomberg, was 6 out of the last 7 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 6 out of the last 7 days, it's gone up, right? Now, as prices go up, perhaps too much too fast, there's a popular tool called the relative strength index. Okay, I won't get into the details of how it's calculated. You can ask ChatGPT how it's calculated if you really want to know it out, which is cool, which is really, really awesome, right? But there is this indicator called the relative strength index. Now, by textbook definition, and you will see them based on how it's color coded here, the two important levels to look out for is 30 and 70. Okay, 30 and 70. According to the textbook definition, the moment this relative strength index hits 30 or crosses below 30 level, that marks oversold conditions. In other words, prices have fallen too much too fast and it could rebound soon. Okay, oversold 30 on the RSI. Now, the opposite to that will be the 70 level. Now, this is textbook definition. Yeah, 70 would imply overbought conditions. That means prices have gone up too much, too fast, right? So it should be pulling down a little bit. But for gold, of course, we know, given its tremendous rally that we've seen really for much of this year, right? That threshold seemed to have gone up to 80, right? So I drew this line here for 80, right, on the relative strength index. Again, you can just click on the indicators, type in relative strength index, and you can just find it right there, okay? You click on it and it'll just populate it. Then you can tweak it however you want. I tweak it to 80 being the threshold. Notice how every time it touches or goes a bit above 80, right, you do see a slight pullback. So this one back in early September, one day of a pullback, or it just kind of stayed flat there. Another one in mid-September after September 16th, 80, a slight pullback. Same thing, 23rd September, after that slight pullback, again. Now this was a big one, right? So this was when there was a lot of clearing of the froth in gold prices, because markets just said, enough. It's gone up to so many new record highs. There needs to be some new equilibrium or something that's more sustainable. So it fell back below 4,000, found a support around 39.25. Again, I use the word support. When I say support, just think of floor. Prices hit the level and then you kind of bounce off. Okay, support, floor, as opposed to resistance. Think of a ceiling, hits it and comes back down. Okay, but it's cleared many different resistance levels. 90 simple moving average here, blew past the 21-day simple moving average, that a target that we had highlighted from last week, right? Duly surged past it on Monday after that hopes of the breakthrough in the US government shutdown, which we now know is confirmed, right? And still now marching higher. But even though you've got gains, according to Bloomberg data, 6 out of the last 7 days, look at where the RSI is. While it's not yet hit the 70 threshold, the textbook threshold for overbought conditions, certainly far still from 80. So what does this tell us? It suggests, again, this is not the gospel truth. It's not 100% true all the time, but it's often used as a guide. Excuse me there, a bit of an itch there. So it's often used as a guide. Well, gold still has more room to run to the upside, okay? Right? At least judging by the RSI, the relative strength index. So that's another way you can use technical analysis to kind of give you another clue, another signal, potential signal about what's happening in the markets right now. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just thinking that you just need to go another 0.3% past today's high, and that's another target met, right? And we're gonna keep updating you guys on X. You can see I'll take screenshots and post charts, based on the stuff that we had spoken about, highlighted before, and see how those scenarios are actually developing as the days go by, right? Now, you also note that most of the time I'm using daily time frames because I know that not everybody is watching this live right now. Some of you, in fact, many of you actually watch the replays or after that, after the live stream has ended, which is totally cool. So that's why I kind of use it on the daily time frame. That gives you a bit more breathing room and some time for that potential scenario to play out. Having said that, of course, like yesterday, as soon as the live stream ended, boom, it got to within, or just a few hours later, it got to within 17 cents of that $58 downside target for oil prices. Okay, we've got just 1 more minute left. Let's look at if we look at oil. Here's another one. This one we highlighted from last Friday. Again, go check that out, right? Last Friday, we highlighted the China H Index. This is the index. Remember, index, it measures stuff. It measures a basket of Chinese companies that have stocks listed in Hong Kong. Okay, China H Index. The official name, I believe, is the Hang Seng China Enterprises Index, if I'm not mistaken, right? But so since Friday, which was November 7th, 4 days on the up, right? So in fact, on that Monday, for the Monday morning, Dubai time, it was the best performing stock index offered within the Bybit universe. But just since then, it's kept on climbing. So even today, it's green right now, although pairing some of those initial gains that we saw, again, psychological level, right? 9600. Markets tend to kind of react to these big round numbers, be it 9600 here. There was resistance back in mid-September, also support/resistance around early October. Same thing, another big round number, 9500, resistance in late October, resistance around late September as well, right? So you do see this resistance a couple of days ago. So right now looks like 9600 is in play. Now, of course, this was an asset that we had highlighted for the entirety of the week. We've got some big earnings coming out, and Alibaba has just announced its earnings. Alibaba is the biggest, I believe, stock in this basket. Okay, in the China H index, Alibaba alone accounts for about 10%, I believe. So it just announced its earnings. And so how markets react to each individual company's performance, right? Specifically the bigger ones like Tencent and Alibaba, right? That has the power to then move the broader basket, the broader index as well. Okay. So we'll see whether it lands. The question I had posed from last Friday was whether or not we could see the China H index surpass 9771.75 to hit a new multi-year high. Perhaps, well, it did a good job at attempting it, but perhaps with only about 30 hours or so left in the trading week, perhaps that might be one step too far. But who knows? You never know. Markets are always full of surprises, just as the real world is. So we'll see whether it will fall short of that 9771.75 target, or whether it could actually go higher. But still, it was a tremendous opportunity there. It panned out quite nicely in terms of its steady gains for most of this week, unlike some of the other stock indices, like I showed you the S&P 500 falling right now. Okay, all right, so I think that's pretty much it for today. We're a couple of minutes over. The US stock market has opened. So feel free to kind of see how these different asset classes are reacting. Bitcoin, still trimming some of those gains right now that we saw earlier, spike to 104, couldn't be sustained. Gold prices, similarly, also trimming some of its initial gains, now about $46, so about 1% away from that 4256 target. Of course, the day is still young. Literally, the US stock market has just opened 3 minutes ago. Oil prices rebounding there. Keep in mind that in about an hour, there is the weekly data from the US that will be released. It shows how much crude oil stockpiles there are in the US on a weekly basis. Based off of that number, which is usually released on Wednesdays, it got pushed back to Thursday this week because of Veterans Day yesterday. But that number has the power to also move markets. Perhaps not so much unless there's a big shock. But generally, because it's such a high frequency thing, it happens every week, every Wednesday. Markets do take that into stride in seeing how to move oil prices from there. Okay. Real quick tip again on US or USD. Here at Bybit, we've got two different types of oil contracts. So again, hover over that hamburger menu, those three horizontal lines. Click on TradFi, click on commodities, and you will scroll down and you'll see UKO USD and USO USD. UKO USD is what we call Brent, or the ticker that we give for Brent. Brent is the global benchmark for oil prices, right, used around the world, as opposed to USO USD, which is the ticker we give for WTI crude oil. That is the US benchmark for oil prices. Both tend to move similarly, not 100% of the time, but pretty much, it does follow the other. Go and check that out. That's oil prices for you. All right, cool. Thank you so much. Don't forget to try and claim your share of 25,000 USDT in rewards and potentially more just by scanning this QR code that I'm going to pull up on the screen here again, right? And also you can tap on the link that we have in the YouTube description and also on X, right? Scan the QR code. For those of you who are signing up, you stand to get a leg up, an edge, so to speak, above the Bybit OGs. Even though everybody can do all those different tasks and potentially earn more rewards, but even for signing up and going through the KYC process or verifying your identity process, that could also get you more rewards. For these live streams, 25,000 USDT in rewards, and then for the subsequent page that you land on with all the different tasks, another 5,000 USDT in weekly rewards. All right. Thank you so much for joining in. Drop me any comments if you've got any thoughts, feedback, or if there's a chart or an asset that you'd like us to look at for you, just give me a shout. Otherwise, thanks so much. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. On Fridays, we're going to do a week ahead preview. So we're going to give you a very early head start on how to prepare for what could happen in the markets the following week. Okay. And here's a tip. Here's a big one. A multi-trillion-dollar event is coming up. Don't miss out. Stay tuned. Tomorrow, tune in 2 p.m. GMT on YouTube and X right here